Welcome back to Louisiana Football TV Magazine. We have a new set this year, and actually next week it's even going to be better. We're going to have images of the last 7 covers of our magazine. And I want to mention our magazine. We'll be running some advertisements in the show on how to get the magazine. Our preview's out for '09, which Drew Dillio's in, and Tasman Knockham, a lot of the former players every year we do write-ups on. And we're very excited to have Tasman on tonight with Fabian Roussel from Peak Performance. Drew Dillio's coming on later. But I want to start the show. We have a great guest, and Art Moore, who's a Dangerfield, Texas native, around East Texas, went up to San Francisco 49ers back in the day, in the 70s. He's still young. I don't want to do that to him. And he played with the New England Patriots. Later in the show, we have a picture of him tackling Mr. O.J. Simpson. And O.J. was not heading toward the art gallery in Vegas when you were tackling.
No, actually he wasn't. He really wasn't.
Right. But we want to mention that, Art, I'm glad to have you on the show.
Lee, thank you, man. Glad to be here.
I'm going to tell a true story. I'm going to always shoot from the hip. About 7 people told me, you got to talk to Art Moore. And, when I was a little kid, I remember the Patriots. Mike Haynes, a 12-time All-Pro cornerback. John Hanna, who my dad loved from Alabama. He thought he was the greatest lineman since sliced bread. And then, Jim Plunkett, who Art reminded me got cut as the #1 pick in the draft by the Patriots, was a teammate for Art's for a few weeks. But it was Grogan for a lot of that. But Art, here you are in Louisiana.
Well, actually, my wife and I, we're enjoying the time down here. But, today is bringing back a lot of memories after watching New England beat Buffalo last night. And, a lot of people talk about O.J., but at the time that I know him and met him, he was the greatest running back and probably still is the greatest running back of all time.
Now, when Mr. Gillette owned the Patriots, he didn't own it back then, right?
Well, Gillette didn't own the team when I did. It was, I can't think of the names right
They
now.
didn't sell them out back then like now.
No, they didn't sell them out.
They didn't build the $200 billion facility and mall.
We didn't need all that, man.
Yeah,
we didn't believe in dome tops and all that,
yeah.
man, because, we like to play in the elements,
In the elements.
I mean, you go to Buffalo or you go to Green Bay, and it was all about. In fact, I played when Bud Grant was Minnesota Vikings, because they wouldn't let you have heaters on the sideline, man.
Did anybody coach longer than Bud Grant?
Nobody that I could think of. Maybe Chuck Noll. Maybe.
Chuck Noll?
Yeah.
And Tom Landry, maybe?
And Coach. Now, Tom's a very good friend of mine. We spent a lot of time after Tom's retirement. My wife and I are doing the FCA thing. Tom, he's talking about a class guy. He's a wonderful man.
Now, I'm going to go backwards. We'll go back to the pros, but I want to go back to what got you to Louisiana. Reggie White, Green Bay Packers, was a Philadelphia Eagle player,
right.
Tennessee All-American. I remember going to the LSU game when Willie Galt returned a 100-yard.
Willie Galt was a good friend of mine.
Yeah, Willie had a 100-yard interception return. I think Reggie White had 7 or 6 sacks at LSU. Right. But
well, it's a long story. God used Reggie. Reggie used to call my house in California and leave messages on the phone that Art and Gail, Gail was my wife, that God wanted us to move to Tennessee, and that was the only way that God could get me away from the beach. And but Reggie was a strong man of God, and so we used the platform of sports. And so because of that, we actually moved to Green Bay. And we actually moved to Knoxville, Tennessee, and then after going to Knoxville, Reggie's contract was up in Philly, and I helped talk. Mike Horgham and Ray Rose were friends of mine, and I helped Mike and Ray talk Reggie into going to Green Bay. And then when Reggie went to Green Bay, we went to Boca Raton, Florida, because Gail didn't want to go to the cold, and then she wanted to go to the beach. And then we came to do a thing at Downham School, and we came down several times after that, and people began to say, well, maybe you got your BRs mixed up. God didn't mean Boca Raton. Uh-huh. So, and Bill Barkus and those guys, and Lock Murray, they were all part of that to get us to move down here to Baton Rouge, and so here we are. So we relocated our nonprofit. We have a nonprofit called Yes I Can, and we have a network of active and retired athletes that we use around the country to preach the gospel and to help kids and families in crisis.
And I want to go back to Reggie White. I love the story that he gets this $9 million check. Not a $10 check, but a $9 million check, and you're in the
well, here's the deal. I mean,
he puts it in his pocket, and he needs $10 for gas.
Well, the deal is that Reggie and all these guys owe me. I mean, we struck the free agency and never got it. And so after Reggie decided to take the contract at Green Bay, I get a call from Ray Rose, who's now the D coordinator for the Texans. And we were laughing on the phone, and so he said, all right, so guess how much money we got on the table for Reggie White? And so at that time, I don't think Reggie knew, and he had been touring the 49ers or whatever. So Ray told me, he said, man, we got $17 million on the table for a defensive lineman, which is small compared to what the guys now, but then, the money was not that big. And I said, wow, man, they're going to give a defensive lineman $17 million. He said, yeah. He said, but that's not the kicker. I said, what's the kicker? He said, if Reggie takes a deal, he gets a check for $9 million. And I go, $9 million, one check? Yeah. And so long story short, Reggie calls my wife and I, and we all flew into Chattanooga because he was signing the contract at his high school. And so we know Reggie's mom, so it's like family, and Reggie and I were like family. So we all hanging out at Reggie's house the night before. And so we get up the next day and go over to his high school, and then there's general manager Ron Wolf, and they all coming over to, get all the people out there, the big accolades. And so Reggie takes the deal. And then after that, Reggie takes a check, puts it in his pocket. Then we go out and get in the car, and he notices his mom needs some gas. And he looked at me and told me, Art, you got $20 so I can fill up my mom's car? And I'm like, man, you got a $9 million check in your pocket, man.
Art, we're going to come back. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about also Jim Plunkett, a little story on Jim Plunkett when he was cut with the Patriots. Art was playing there in his career, 49ers. Being from Texas, state championship team in Dangerfield, Texas in high school. We'll be back in just a moment. More Louisiana Football TV Magazine.
Does your office need an update? Shop Office Furniture World, where you'll find one of the largest selections of quality new and pre-owned office furniture in the area. We carry a large selection of cubicles, metal desks, file cabinets, bookcases, everything you need for starting a new business or updating one. From the reception area to the boardroom, Office Furniture World can enhance the look of your office at a fraction of the cost. Visit Office Furniture World on Coursey Boulevard today.
I studied orthopedic medicine
to help improve lives.
I practice at the Bone and Joint Clinic
because people, real people,
just like you, deserve to be treated by experts.
Where everything you need
is right here.
We offer imaging and treatment,
orthopedic surgery,
and full rehab.
Because we want to see you get better.
If you're looking for the gear you need in the colors you bleed, then make your first stop Co-op. Much more than just a bookstore, Co-op has the largest selection of LSU merchandise for the whole family, including tailgating supplies, LSU clothing and accessories, great gifts, and a whole lot more. Stop in or order online for the best prices on art supplies, school supplies, and textbooks. The Co-op Bookstore, where you'll always find the gear you need in the colors you bleed.
A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. What's yours? Balance. Strength. Agility. Power. What's holding you back? Get fit with Reaction Sports Training, specializing in customized programs for the athlete in you.
Louisiana Office Supply is the largest stocking office product store in the South with a new 23,000 square foot showroom. For over 72 years, Louisiana Office Supply has met the demand for quality office products competitively priced with an extensive selection and knowledgeable staff. From office furniture to Post-it notes, there are supplies for every part of your office. Louisiana Office Supply, generation after generation, exceptional service since 1936.